What's up guys, and welcome to a new motorsport discussion series called the Podium. This is where I'm just going to be talking about all things motorsport, Formula 1, IndyCar, MotoGP, Formula E, the lot. Hopefully you guys enjoy it. Let's get into it. Yes guys, we are back on this channel for the start of a new chapter. If you've watched the previous video, you'll know that I'm going to stop making gaming content. And this is one of the things I really wanted to do. So it is of course the start of a new season in motorsport. And we're going to be kicking this series off with my Formula 1 season predictions. I'm also going to be talking about some of the other forms of motorsport which I've been getting into and have watched over the last couple of weeks and give my opinions on that. But yeah, hopefully you guys do enjoy it. If you are a big fan of this sort of thing, then do make sure to drop a like and also subscribe down below. And yeah, in today's video, I'm going to be getting you guys involved. So yeah, keep on watching and you'll know what it's all about. So for my season predictions, rather than just saying who I think is going to be the champion, I've sort of come up with a little bit of a table of different things. So as I said, I want to get you guys involved. And the table looks a little bit like this. It should appear on screen now. And basically, I will have tweeted it out when this video comes out. So yeah, if you go to my Twitter, quote tweet it with who you think is going to be the champion, contender, most improved, most disappointing, and the best rookie in terms of driver and teams, then yeah, you're more than welcome to do that. I will try and sort of respond to the best ones. And yeah, without further ado, let's get into my opinions. Starting off then with the big one. Who do I think is going to be the champion in 2018? And I'm afraid I'm going to be quite boring and say Lewis Hamilton. I said it last season in my season preview, and I was actually right. Not that it takes a genius to work out that Mercedes are the best team on the grid at the moment, but yeah, the reason for saying that is Hamilton's in the prime of his career. You know, he's on top of the world in terms of confidence. You know, he's come off the back of 3 championship wins in the last 4 seasons. Mercedes withstood sort of the biggest rule change in the sport since 2014, which is when they sort of came to dominance. And yeah, they withstood that. It looks as if it's not really a big deal to Mercedes. So for that reason, I think Hamilton's going to come out on top. You may be wondering what I think of Valtteri Bottas and whether he's going to mount a charge this season. Personally, I just think Hamilton's just got a lot better qualities than Bottas. Bottas is a solid driver, but he's a number 2 driver, in my opinion. And that's pretty much why Mercedes employed him. You know, if you look at Hamilton's performances, he's sort of up at a 7, 8 or 9 out of 10 each week. You know, he's right up here. Whereas Bottas, you know, he can put in an 8 out of 10. But then the next week he's down at a 4 and Hamilton's still up there at an 8. And yeah, I think that's just the main difference between those two, really. And yeah, for that reason, I think it's pretty clear that I think Hamilton will come out on top this season. In terms of the Constructors' Championship, it's pretty much Mercedes to lose once again. And as I've previously mentioned, they withstood the biggest rule change in the sport since 2014. And it just shows like what a dominant engine can really get you in this era of Formula 1, or power unit, as it is called nowadays. But yeah, Ferrari, they did well last season. I think in terms of chassis and aerodynamics, they were probably, you know, pretty much matching Mercedes. I don't know, maybe a little bit behind them. But then, if you look at that Mercedes power unit, it is just ridiculous. They quite clearly had the best one in 2014, and they've made strides forward since then, and the other teams just have not caught them up. So yeah, I think it's pretty clear that Mercedes in pre-season have had no major issues. They've put in the most laps out of anyone. And yeah, for that reason, I think it's going to be theirs. Next then we go to who I think is going to be the contender this season. And I'm actually going to throw a little bit of a curveball in there. I think it's going to be Max Verstappen that is going to be sort of the best of the rest this season. And the reason for me saying that is that, you know, Verstappen got so unlucky last season. He had so many retirements, especially in the early part of the season. And if the reliability of his car can be improved in 2018, I don't see any reason why he can't be winning, or at least challenging for races week in, week out. You know, you look at the second half of last season, he won in Malaysia, he won in Mexico, and that win in Malaysia, like that Red Bull car was genuinely quicker than the Mercedes, which you can't say too many times in the hybrid era. Also, in terms of qualifying, he just seemed to be on top of Ricciardo last season. I think, obviously, a lot of people love Daniel Ricciardo for his personality, myself being one of them. But I think if Verstappen can really prove that he's matured as a driver and can sort of put in those solid performances week in, week out, I don't see why he can't beat Ricciardo this season. I also think Red Bull will finish ahead of Ferrari in the Constructors' standings, which is why I think they're going to be the contending team this season. I still don't think they'll get close to Mercedes. But I don't know, Ferrari last season was their chance. You know, they got close and they sort of bottled it towards the end, as well as not having a quick car compared to Mercedes. But I don't know, Red Bull just seem to have good seasons every other year. Like if you look at the hybrid era from 2014 through to 2017, 2014 they did alright, they finished second in the Constructors' standings. 2015 was a poor year for them, where they finished fourth. 2016 was a good year where they finished second, and then last year again they finished lower, they finished third. So if we go along that pattern, they should finish second this season. So yeah, I don't know, they've looked alright in pre-season, but it's just so difficult to look into. And yeah, I'm pretty much guessing at this stage. Now on to the most improved. I have gone for Pierre Gasly in terms of drivers. Of course, this is technically his rookie season, but he did have a few races towards the back end of last season, where we don't really know a lot about what the Toro Rosso was doing, you know, whether it was actually a good car. It's difficult to read into, but Gasly had a lot of bad luck. I don't think there was a single race where he didn't have a grid penalty. And I hope this season, and I think this season, will be the one where he really proves that he is a good driver. You know, you look at other series that he's been in, you know, he won F2 or GP2, whatever it was called at the time. And then he did well in the Japanese Super Formula last year in cars which he wasn't familiar with. You know, he just went over to Japan, had a solid season there. And if it wasn't for the final race being rained off, he could well have been champion in that. Along with that new Honda engine, which I think has been very much improved this year, or is just better packaged in the Toro Rosso car, I think this season could be pretty good for Toro Rosso. But I haven't put them as the most improved team. Coincidentally, I've put the team that have got rid of the Honda engine, McLaren, as who I think is going to be the most improved. You know, you look at them in pre-season testing, I believe they were 3.2 seconds quicker compared to last season, which was better than any other team on the grid. And although I don't think they're still going to be reliable, as has been seen in pre-season testing, I do think they will be quick when they can keep the car on the track. Hopefully for McLaren, it can be quite similar to the 2012 season. I don't think it'll be, you know, quite to that extent. I don't think they'll have the quickest car on the grid. In fact, I think they'll probably be third or fourth quickest. But I do think that when they can keep that car on the track, it will be quick. It's just a case of, you know, getting a full race distance out of that car. And, you know, if you give Fernando Alonso even just a half-decent car, he will get the best out of it. I genuinely think that McLaren could well get a podium this season. And I hope they do, because I think that'll be good for the sport. Next up is the most disappointing category, and this was a difficult one. I was sort of torn between a few drivers, but I've actually ended up going for Kimi Raikkonen, which is a shame because, you know, in those mid-2000s when I first got into Formula 1, that guy was electric. He was so good. But ever since he's gone back to Ferrari in 2014, he's just not been the same, has he? I mean, it's quite evident that he's a number 2 driver, and I don't think that car is sort of built to suit his driving style, but it just goes on through the years, and we just get disappointed by Raikkonen every year. I mean, that Ferrari was the second quickest car last season. And, you know, you have the likes of Max Verstappen and Daniel Ricciardo winning races. But, yeah, Raikkonen still couldn't win one. So, yeah, I think last season was his chance. He's only getting older and older. And I think, once again, we're unfortunately going to be disappointed with the performances of Raikkonen. I said I was torn between who I was going to go for. I was either going to go for Raikkonen or one of the Williams drivers. But the reason for me not doing that is because I don't know who is going to outperform who. This season could expose either Lance Stroll or Sergei Sirotkin. It could expose Stroll. You know, if Sirotkin comes in and keeps outperforming him, then that's 2 seasons in a row where Stroll, on more weekends than not, has been outperformed. Or Stroll could have got used to the car last season and outperformed Sirotkin and, yeah, show Williams what a poor choice that was. Or it could just be in between, which is why I didn't go for Williams. So I hope the Williams do well this season, but unfortunately I have gone for them as the most disappointing team. Just because, you know, you look around the grid and you just look at those different teams, the likes of McLaren, the likes of Haas, Toro Rosso, and even Renault as well, all of which seem to have made big strides forward over the winter. Of course, Renault are technically a factory team, and you know they've had a couple of seasons under their belt now since they got rid of the Lotus name. And yeah, I just think this is going to be the season where they sort of make a few strides forward. Haas look very impressive in pre-season testing. We've already talked about Toro Rosso and McLaren. So yeah, I think this could be a testing season for Williams. Also, if you look at their driver partnership on paper, it's probably the weakest on the grid. The other team I was going to go for most disappointing was actually Force India, just because, like I said, there's so many teams that have made strides forward. But whatever happens, Force India just seem to be able to hold their own. I don't know what it is, but they're an incredible team. They do it on such a low budget, and I really do hope they can finish 4th again this season. Finally then, it is the best rookie, and I'm going to give that to Charles Leclerc. Charles Leclerc. I can't speak. Anyway, it's Leclerc. Because, yeah, there's only actually 2 proper rookies on the grid, him and Sirotkin. And, you know, Leclerc is off the back of a brilliant F2 season last year where he just tore that field to pieces. And hopefully he can, you know, score a couple of points here and there in Formula 1. That Alfa Romeo team, it's going to be difficult, I think, this season for them. Just because, you know, Sauber will have done the majority of development on the car. You know, Alfa Romeo came in quite late with their partnership. So, yeah, I think this season's sort of going to be a season where Alfa Romeo get to grips with what the team is all about. And, yeah, hopefully 2019 is the season they're building towards. So that concludes my predictions. Like I said, do make sure to go onto my Twitter and make sure to do your predictions and link them to me as well. But, yeah, without further ado, we are now going to get into the next section of the video, which is talking about the other motorsports that have gone on in the last couple of weeks. You may have noticed that this series is called the Podium, and there is a good reason behind that. Now, each week, I'm going to be doing a little podium of my own. So, yeah, basically ranking something from 1 to 3. And this week, it is going to be alternative race series. So, yeah, my favourite 3 alternatives to F1, ranked from 3 to 1 this week. In at number 3, we have got Formula E. Now, this series is going from strength to strength. You know, they've got the partnerships with Porsche, Mercedes, BMW, Audi, just to name a few that are coming next season into the sport. And obviously Audi are already in it. But yeah, at the moment, I feel like Formula E is in a sort of a transition phase. Next season, they've got the new breed of cars, which can do a whole race distance. But at the moment, yeah, it just seems a little bit unpolished, I think it's fair to say. Now, don't get me wrong, Formula E is making big strides and really making waves in the world of motorsport, but it has got a long way to go. However, last weekend's E-Prix in Punta del Este was a brilliant race. Jean-Eric Vergne put up a great fight to take victory and maintain his lead at the top of the drivers' standings. And yeah, it's just really good to see you know, cars go around street tracks and actually be able to race each other, unlike in Formula 1. And yeah, that is why I've got Formula E in at number 3. In at 2, we have got a series which I am new to, and that is IndyCar. The first full race, I believe, that I've watched was the weekend just gone, or 2 weeks ago, in St. Petersburg, Florida. The first race of the 2018 season, and boy, was it a good one. 366 overtakes took place over the course of just under 2 hours, and that is something I'm not used to seeing in Formula 1. It was Sebastian Bourdais that took victory, but it was Robert Wickens that really sort of captured the hearts of the fans, I think. Yeah, Wickens, the Canadian, pretty much led for the entire race until we had a full course caution, courtesy of Max Chilton, who just binned it into the wall after being in last place as well. But yeah, that brought out the safety car, and Alexander Rossi, as well a former F1 driver, dived down the inside of Wickens with just a couple of laps to go, and yeah, they collided down to the slippy turn 1, and that just left Bourdais to sweep through and take the victory. But what a race it was. So many things F1 can learn from IndyCar. That could be a completely separate video. But yeah, it was just a breath of fresh air to see cars which could actually overtake each other. Just, yeah, due to the new aero package they've got in Indy, I think that's something F1 can really take and use in the future, possibly even the 2021 rules. But yeah, I will definitely be tuning in to IndyCar for the rest of the season, and that's why I've got it in at 2. But the number 1 this week, I've got to give to MotoGP. Now, I sort of dip in and out of MotoGP, or have done over the last few years, but yeah, I didn't think I watched any of it last season. It's just something that I just don't seem to have had the time for, but I made time for it on Sunday, and I am so pleased that I did. We had an 8-car race pretty much to the end, or sorry, 8-car battle for victory, and incredible that the man that was leading the majority of the race, Zarco, he wasn't even on a factory bike. and B, he actually ended up finishing in 7th place in the end. So yeah, I think he took pole position, and he also led pretty much the entire race. But due to his tyres wearing away, he ended up slipping down the field, and it was left to Marc Marquez and Andrea Dovizioso to battle it out. I was going to say on the final lap, but it was actually the final corner of the final lap. Brilliant battle between the two of them. And yeah, just such a breath of fresh air to see in motorsport. Going side by side through the final corner, it was, though, Dovizioso that managed to take the victory by 2/100ths of a second. And just a brilliant race, you know, to see all the way down the field, battles throughout. It was just fantastic, and that is why I've put that at number 1. As always, your guys' opinions are very much appreciated. Do make sure to leave them in the comments down below. And yeah, I will be back next week with my review of the first race of the season in Australia. Hopefully it can be a good one. We've got 3 DRS zones, I've actually just discovered, for the first race of the season, which will be interesting. But yeah, I'll be back on Wednesday because I'm actually away at the weekend. So I don't actually know whether I'm going to watch the Grand Prix until I get back. But yeah, very much looking forward to it. Hopefully you guys are too. Let me know your thoughts down below. And yeah, I'll catch you in my next video.